Guys, I want to welcome you to the shir. It feels like deja vu. I'm going to start the bracha. I'm going to have you all in mind, if you can just have in mind that I'm doing it on your behalf as well as my own. And we're going to start now. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'asuk b'divrei Torah. Baruch na Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratcha b'finu b'fi amcha beit Yisrael. ונהיה אנחנו וצאצאינו וצאצאימך בית ישראל, כולנו יודעי שמך ולומדי תורתך לשמה. ברוך אתה אדוני מלמד תורה לעמו ישראל.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני למלך משה בך בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Part 2, and all the Mishnah digresses for a second. It says, when it comes to any of these damages working in unison, and when any of the damages does damage, the owner of the damage is chav. So the Gemara just wants to know, what is this word chav? And it's an abbreviated version of chayiv. There were many Yerushalmis that lived in Babylon that had their own way of speaking. It was like what you call slang, the shortcut way of speaking. So in the Gemara, you sometimes have these abbreviated words. One of them is chav, to imply chayiv, being obligated. Okay? So that's all it's coming to bring. Right. Now, we're going to go to a statement in Shmot, chapter 22, verse 4, in Exodus, which has the scriptural source for avos of Shein and Regel. So what happens is it goes to focus, and it says that the Torah states in a brisa that damage done by eating or trampling another's produce, which, remember, it used one particular scriptural source for both Shein and Regel. It said, he shall pay his choicest field in the, or his choicest vineyard. I don't know if you guys remember that scriptural source. Do you guys remember it? Okay. So it says, he, the owner, shall pay his choicest field or his choicest vineyard. So what it's coming to do is it's coming to bring a dispute between Rav Yishmael, and basically Rabbi Akiva. So Rav Yishmael is saying that when you use the Gezerah Shaba, we actually, what is the term, his choice field or his choicest vineyard? He shall pay his choices. So the dispute is that according to Rav Yishmael, the damaged party's choicest field or the damaged party's choicest vineyard. That's what it's referring to, okay? Because it uses the possessive noun, his, as referring to the damaged party. Now, according to Rabbi Akiva, it's coming to talk about the damages superior land or superior vineyard. Does everybody understand it clearly or not really? I can repeat it, and I can explain it in my own words.
I'm okay.
I got it.
I'm okay.
Okay. So again, they're battling over the word his. Does his mean, if the damages animal does damage in the field of another, is it paid from the damages choicest field or choicest vineyard? And that's according to Rabbi Akiva, because that is the straightforward translation of the actual verse. Or do we say his choicest field and his choicest vineyard refers to the damaged party's choicest field? Okay, so that's why this is actually where the difficulty arises, is that according to Rabbi Yishmael, if you're paying according to the damaged party's field, where an animal ate a rich bed of vegetables, you obviously pay from the rich bed. What do we mean by rich bed of vegetables? Guys, what do you think a rich bed actually means?
The top of his, the top one. No, not the cheap one, the top one. The best of his best.
Yeah, it means it means that the field that produces both more volume and higher quality yields, whereas the others is either substandard yield or substantial or substandard in terms of quality. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a case where an animal ate vegetables from a bed of another bed in another's garden, and we don't understand, according to the Gemara, why Rav Yishmael says that you have to pay from high quality land of the damaged party, because what happens if the animal ate from a poor bed? Does that make sense? In other words, what do you think the question is here? Why should he pay more for damage than his animal actually inflicted? This is the first difficulty that arises, according to Rav Yishmael. Guys, do you understand the question?
Yeah,
I understand the question. I was listening.
We agree with that.
Can I just say, you say in summary that if an animal eats damaged party, gets to pick from the choice of land of the land that's been damaged. And the question is, well, what happens if the animal eats from an inferior part of the land? Why should he get the choice? Why should the damaged part get the choice of part?
Well, that's exactly it. What you're saying is exactly what Rashi said. He said, so if an animal ate from a row of produce in another's field, why must the owner pay the value of the damaged party's most valuable row of produce, even though the animal might have ate a row of less value? Do you get what I'm saying? Because how this misinterpretation came is Rav Yishmael is basically coming to say that if you paid from the damaged party's field, the choice, what it's coming to say is, well, why should you always pay from the superior land of the damaged animal when, in fact, the ox that damaged the damaged party's field might have not eaten from the most expensive row? So how do you automatically pay for the most valuable row in this case? Just because you're teaching that you pay from the damaged party's row according to Rav Yishmael doesn't mean that you have to necessarily pay from the most valuable row, especially if it ate from an inferior row. So this is the question that's posing to Rav Yishmael, exactly what Michael said.
Can I raise one point?
Sure.
I agree with Michael, and I agree with Rashi exactly what you're saying, that it's unfair and that you should pay from, if you've eaten inferior quality produce, you should pay from inferior quality produce or land. But the other one's a great deterrent. If you have to pay from the highest quality, I'm just saying, I'm just playing the kind of devil's advocate here, is that if it's from the highest produce, that's going to be a very, very good deterrent that you watch your animals a lot more closely because the punishment is more severe.
Okay, so let's address Gavin's question.
The penalty is more severe. I don't know. Sorry, I maybe didn't say it right.
Let's address Gavin's question, that there is often a case where it's talking about compensation versus penalty. And when it talks about a knas, a penalty, often it is a deterrent factor. But the point of it is that the Torah looks to be fair to both parties, and it cannot be punitive. So often what happens is that, believe me, if you're not in the case where there's insurance and your vehicle damages another, the 30 grand that you have to pay is enough for you to know next time not to be busy playing on a WhatsApp on your cell phone while you're driving. You don't have to pay 60 grand to realize that when the 30 grand tanked you in terms of expenses, you're going to have a lot of vegetarian food for the next couple of weeks because meat is out of the question because of a lack of affordability. So I'm saying sometimes compensation is enough of a deterrent. It doesn't have to be punitive.
No, good point. I was just raising it, yeah.
No, it's a valid point. There are sometimes cases when there is a penalty factor as a deterrent, but in most cases, if you're paying compensation, it still stings a lot. And that's enough of a deterrent whilst being fair to the person you damaged. So,
Dave, another question.
Yes.
You haven't specified whether at this point we are talking about whether the animal ate from the damager's land or the person whose land, or the damage.
Yes, it's going to be unpacked. It's absolutely correct. So what happens is two scenarios are proposed. According to Rav Yishmael, it's from the damaged party's land. According to Rav Akiva, it's from the damager's land that he pays from superior quality land.
Okay.
And what we're doing is we're pushing the logic of both to see which one is going to be functional at the end of the day. Is it one or the other, or is it a composite of both? So this is exactly what the dove's coming to play out. We don't know at this point. We just know what their opinions are. And there might be a case where they agree on certain things, just the same with Shmuel and Rav. So with Rav Yishmael, one of the problems it brings, Marco, is exactly as you said, is that why should you pay automatically for the highest valuable row when it definitely ate from a less valuable row? Okay, that's the first question. And firstly, the first point that it brings, according to Rashi, is that this is where the animal's owner pays with land. The damager pays the damaged party with land. He pays from superior land, as per the pasuk. This is what it's suggesting. But he has got an alternative to pay with a cash equivalent, which is not from superior quality land. So what's actually going to be deduced is, do you pay on the quality of land or do you pay on the financial value? We're going to see this in the next few dafs. So you just got to be patient. But Michael, what you're telling me here means that you've prepared and that you've actually read what's going on. So that I really, really appreciate, because at least you got a sense of it. All right. So what it's coming to do then is clear it up and say, listen, according to Rav Idi Bar Avin, he says, what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with a case where obviously if the animal ate from a vegetable bed that is of lower quality, Rav Yishmael is not coming to say that you pay from the highest quality. When it's a clear-cut case of we know what bed the animal ate from, you only have to pay appropriate to the quality that it ate. Does that make sense?
Sure.
It's obvious. So we're not
Quality and quantity.
So we're going to go into an argument of quality versus quantity, but let's just deal with the qualitative issue at the moment. And the qualitative issue is, because it's easier to deal with that before we discuss logic of value, okay? So what we're saying is here is that, and whether you're talking, Gavin, about quality or value, quality is value. Let me give you a formula in the Gemara, just something simple, right? You take the highest quality land and you say there's 2 hectares of the highest quality land, which equals for medium quality land of 3 hectares, which equals for low quality of land of 4 hectares. So I'm just giving you an example. So low quality land of 4 hectares could be equal to 2 hectares of high quality land and be equal to 3 hectares of medium quality land. So that's when we use a combination and say high quality land has a value, low quality land has a value, and medium quality land has a value. Meaning, the higher the quality of the land, the less land you lead to equal in value to a medium-sized property, and even less land to equal to more land of a lower quality field. Does that make sense? It's pure mass, pure obvious.
Perfect. Thank you.
Fine. So we're saying here, according to Rav Idi Baravin, who's talking about Rav Yishmael, he's saying obviously Rav Yishmael is not saying that you pay from the high quality of land when it ate from a poor bed. That's obvious. What we're saying here is he's saying it's a case when you don't know. We do not know whether the animal ate from a rich bed or a poor bed. That's what he's proposing, that Rav Yishmael is bringing in such a case. Do you get what I'm saying? So you say, in that case, he said, Rav Yishmael rules that the animal's owner must pay the damaged party the value of a rich bed, since the animal may have eaten a rich bed. Okay? So we're on to 6b3 now. Okay? And what it's going to do is there's a question that Rava brings here. He's not happy here, Rava. He's turning around and says to Rav Idi Baravin, this doesn't make 100% sense to me. Why? Because if you look on Gemara on the 46th daf on Bet, okay, in Bava Kamma, what is it talking about here? Where does the burden of proof lie? All right, guys, I'll give you an example. I'm suing you in court, right? Even secular court applies this law from Talmudic law. And I'm trying to exact financial compensation from you, okay, or property from you, or damages from you. Whose obligation is it to prove what you owe me?
The guy that's been damaged.
Yes.
No. If I'm trying to sue you in court, it's a person making the allegation, Kevin. That's exactly right.
Yes.
The burden of proof is on the one who seeks to exact property from his fellow, as it says in the Daf.
But that will be the damager by default.
Okay, but
The guy that
wording
got damaged.
is correct. The wording, I know what you were trying to say. You were right, Gavin, headspace-wise, I know. But in terms of articulation, it's the injured party that has to prove his case if he's suing. The prosecution has to prove with evidence about the amount of damage caused. So, for example, let's take car insurance. If I say somebody smacked my flatbed bakkie while the guys were driving it, I have to get a quote from insurance from 3 different panel beaters to prove what the damage of the cost was before the insurance will pay. The burden of proof is on me to show what the damage was. And I need witnesses, or I need some sort of testimony to prove that vehicle hit my vehicle and it wasn't from previous damage. So this is what Rav is turning around and saying. He said, you can't expect a person to necessarily pay from a rich bed if we don't know if the animal ate from a poor bed or a rich bed. That's not fair. This is contrary to the accepted rule that the burden of proof is upon the one who seeks to exact property from his fellow. You get what I'm saying? That's his issue with it. Does that make sense? It makes sense to me.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Okay. So this entire discussion that occurred is actually found in Gittin, funny enough. It's an extraction on Gittin. Gittin is the law of divorce, where we talk about what a widow is entitled to, a divorcee, creditors, damages. You'll see some of these stuffs in different Gemaras played out contextually, slightly different, but the halacha is the same. Okay? So then the Gemara does concede this point and proposes another explanation. So it says it's now bringing a different rule. It says Rav Acha Bar Yaakov said, what's the case that we're dealing with here in the Brisa, where the superior land of the damaged party was comparable in quality to the inferior land of the damager, and the damager wishes to pay for damage with the land. So, in other words, this is where the argument comes into play. Let's just say that we go according to Rabbi Akiva. Okay, Rabbi Akiva is saying that the damager has to pay from his superior land no matter what, even if the superior land of the damager is worth more than the superior land of the person he damaged. So this is a case where, for example, it's posing a question where the inferior land of the damager is equal to the superior land of the damaged party. Do you get what I'm saying? The inferior.
But how can that be?
I'll tell you how, Gav. There's two different people. They've got two different levels of economic wealth. Okay? So I've, for example, got a lot of property, and it's worth a lot. And my ox damaged somebody else, and he's less rich. So he might have two properties. But his best property is actually equivalent in quality to my worst property.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I misunderstood you. All right, got you.
So what it's saying is here, what do we do here? Because if it's this is a case where both of them can come to some sort of compromise in a way. But if we work according to Rabbi Akiva said it doesn't matter if it's analogous, meaning it doesn't matter if the inferior land of the damager is equal to the superior land of the damaged party. You still have to pay for from the damager's land, because that's the exact translation of the verse. And he got cut more than he damaged in terms of cost, because that's exactly the literal meaning of the verse. And what Rav Yishmael is coming to say is no. He's saying, I absolutely agree with you where it's a case for example, where where there's no inferior land of the damages land that equals to the superior land. I'll go through that now. But let me just tell you where it's actually determined from. So Rabbi Akiva is using the literal translation. And even Rabbi Yishmael agrees with the literal translation. But he's using a Gezerah Shabbat with the word field and field. So he can't argue with Rabbi Akiva in a certain case. So, for example, if the superior, just say the inferior land of the party that's doing the damage, the damager, is inferior to the superior land of the damaged party. The damager has to pay from his superior land, even though it might be much better than the damaged party's superior land, okay? It might be better because his inferior land is not equal in quality to the damaged party's superior land. So he said, I would agree in a case where the lands don't match up. This is what Rav Yishmael is saying. Where the lands don't match up, for sure the damager has to pay from his superior land, and he can't tell the damaged party, you must come collect from my inferior land. In other words, say he doesn't have middle ground. He's either got low quality land or very valuable land. Then the damager must take a hit. He must pay the difference. But if he's got land that's comparable, even if it might be inferior to the compared to his other land, but it's equal in quality to the superior land of the damaged party, he says you can make that compromise because it's still according to the superior land of the damaged party. So he says he's not cancelling out Rabbi Akiva. He says the literal verse is coming to say that you pay from the superior land if the superior land is not comparable. But in a case where you can do a compromise, then you pay according to the damaged party. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any questions? It's actually pretty straightforward.
No,
Guys,
I'm pretty
any
happy.
questions?
I'm happy.
Okay. So I'm going to read it literally just so that we've covered it. So basically, this is what the Rosh brings. So he says it would be a very interesting case to see what happens if the damager has three parcels of land, right? He's got high quality, medium, and low. And his medium quality is equal to the quality, or let's call it the value, of the superior quality of land of the damaged party. Would we say in that case that he just gives the nearest match? Or do we say that he pays according to the superior land of the damager? What do you guys think?
No, I reckon you'd have to pay according to the average and the bad land of the other guy.
Yes, so you're right. If we're holding according to Rav Yishmael, Marco, you're absolutely correct. We do whatever the matchup is. Exactly. But if the whether it's superior, medium, or inferior, we do whatever the matchup is because there's no reason why the damager has to pay more than he has to. As long as it's comparable to the damaged party's superior land, according to Rabbi Akiva, irrespective, you're going to have to pay from superior quality of land of the damager. And the Rosh favors Rabbi Akiva in this opinion. But if you're going according to Rav Yishmael, Marco, you've understood the concept perfectly. It's perfect. Perfect. Okay? So what I'm just going to do is just, we've actually finished on that point because the next point that we're talking about in the next daf, 6b4, is a case where it continues and it says scripture comes only to authorize the court to collect for damages from the damager's own superior land. And this is certainly true where the court collects for the temple treasury. So the next stuff that we're going to hit is going to be Rabbi Akiva's final statement. What's he talking about temple treasury? and that if you can collect damages from the damager's own superior land, what do you mean this is certainly true with regards to the temple treasury? So that's going to be tackled in the next daf, which is Rabbi Akiva's second part of his statement. You guys understand this part of the statement. But let's just summarize according to 6b2. So the damager is liable to make payments from the damage from the choicest of land. The Gemara cites a brisa that records a Tanaic dispute concerning the precise definition of the best of land. The rabbis taught in a brisa, the Torah stated that if one's animal causes damage by eating or trampling another's produce, he, the owner, shall pay his choicest field or his choicest vineyard. So the possessive pronoun his is understood as referring to the damaged party, and so Scripture is stating that the animal's owner must pay the equivalent of the damaged party's choicest field or the damaged party's choicest vineyard. This is according to Rabbi Yishmael. But according to Rabbi Akiva, the Scripture comes only to authorize the court to collect damages from the damager's own superior land. And this is certainly true where the court collects for temple treasury. Okay? So fine. And I'm just giving you a quick summary. According to the initial view of the Gemara, it was asking if Rav Yishmael said that you pay automatically from superior land, whether the animal ate from a rich bed or a poor bed. And it said, no, if you ate from a poor bed, you only pay from a poor bed. Then the Gemara comes to say, well, what if we don't know? Do we pay from a rich or poor bed? And Rav Idi Bar Avin was quoting Rav Ishmael saying, if we're not sure, we pay from a rich bed. And then Rava had an argument with that because he said it's not fair. He said the onus is on the party trying to extract the money to prove that in fact he ate from a poor or rich bed, and you shouldn't automatically, if you're not sure, pay from a rich bed. And then the Gemara agrees with it, conceded the point. And then Rav Acha Bar Yaakov comes to say this whole issue about the inferior land of the damager matching up to the superior land of the damaged party, and saying in that particular case there was a compromise with Rav Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva, and they agree. And he agrees with Rabbi Akiva. He agrees with Rabbi Akiva that you pay from superior land of the damager if the lands are not matchable. But if the lands are damageable, he doesn't agree with Rabbi Akiva and says you can pay from the inferior land of the damager, providing it matches the damaged party's superior land. Does that make sense, guys? That's just the summary of the daf.
Perfect sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We done?
Thanks.
Pardon?
It's always at the recording. That's okay.
Yeah, no, Marco, we've got a few minutes. Please tell me what your question is. We do have a few minutes.
Get the recording as well.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks.
Of course. But was there any question that you had?
I'm fine.
Are you sure?
Exact last point was something I just want to clear up.
Please.
But I'll just
we've got a few minutes.
Yeah, but I have to go through all of my mind.
All right. The only point on the last point is as follows, and this is bottom line. We've got a few minutes. The bottom line is that Rabbi Akiva says he's looking at the literal point of the verse, and he said no matter what happens, the damager has to pay from his superior quality of land. He's not interested. In other words, if it matches or it doesn't match, he's not interested. Rabbi Akiva works with the exact translation and said that's the story. Rabbi Yishmael is saying that you do have to work with the literal translation. Why? Because the Gezerah Shava can never supersede a literal translation. You can't come to use a Gezerah Shava which would trump a literal translation. It can't work like that. So he said yes. He said, if the superior quality of land of the damaged party is not equal to the inferior or medium quality of land of the damager, you have to pay from the superior, even if it costs the damager money. So he agrees with the literal translation. But what he's saying is, if the inferior quality land of the damager, because he's a very rich person, equals the damaged party's superior land, or even according to the Rosh, who says there is a opinion that if a medium quality of land is equal to the superior land of the damaged party, that the damager can pay with that medium quality land because it's a fair compromise. You get what I'm saying? It's only in a case where you use the literal translation is when it doesn't match up the damager's land and the damaged parties. Then the damager has to take the hit, according to Rav Ishmael.
Okay,
That's all it's saying. Does that make sense?
Yes. So there is a hit taken in that case.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
There is a hit taken. There's not even a question. And the reason why I wanted to summarize it is if we end off the share where you have to listen to the audio because I never explained it properly, it means I'm not doing my job. I can't hear you.
You're hard on yourself.
No, you need to be able to understand what's going on, and I need to do a better job of explaining it.
My mind's adjusted.
Okay. So that's great. So what we're going to do is one of the couple of issues we're going to unpack in the next daf or two is as follows. Is we are going to discuss some very interesting topics. What does superior land mean? Does it mean according to international standards, or does it mean according to the standards within what that person owns? Which is a relevant point. You don't know what you're comparing it to. And how do you pay, and what sort of compensation? Do you also pay where it's based on the quality or it's based on the value? And I hinted to it before with a very, very simple analogy, where if highest quality of land, 2 hectares, would be equal to 3 hectares of medium quality land, which would be equal to 4 hectares of land with low quality land. That's not the exact measurements that the Gemara gives. I'm merely using this example as my own example to show that the lower the quality of land, the higher the parcel of land. Does that make sense? Because it's not going to yield as much. Is there any question as far as that's concerned?
No, I'm cool.
What I'm saying to you, Marco, as follows, is that you can take a tiny 2-bedroom townhouse in Sandton and probably buy 60 townhouse shacks in Alex, okay, because of what the land is worth. And then if you end and look at Bears Valley, you might be buy 5. So in other words, property has a value in an area. So sometimes less property in a higher value area is worth more property in a lower value area. And sometimes there's an area that's somewhat in between that. That's the only analogy of I'm using by the 2x4, meaning in Sandton, 2 hectares would be worth maybe the same as 4 hectares in Bears Valley. And then somewhere in between in Glen Hazel, it's worth about 3 hectares because it's about the value in the area. And that's when it brings in the argument according to what is international standard value. So that's what I'm saying. Yes.
Sorry, before we run out of time.
Sure.
In those days, it's unlikely somebody had barren land. So it would have been land with produce on. So now you need to take into account the value with the produce or without the produce on.
Okay, so that's an excellent question. We're going to see that it's not always the case. It brings the value of the land difference between Nisan and Tishrei, between the periods of time when you harvest the land and when there is nothing growing on the land. In other words, it's about to yield produce, and then it's worth twice as much as when there's the land is barren and has just been plowed and nothing's been seeded. So it's going to go according to when you cause the damage. What happens if you cause it and it's a shocking season for the damaged party or the damages? It could be unfair to one party, depending on what the land is worth. Because Gavin's bringing a great case. This is agricultural land restitution. This is not commercial property where the land value doesn't fluctuate. Here, the potential of what the land can yield affects the price. And also you have the 3 regalim, the 3 festivals. So, for example, if you go at the end of the year to Cape Town, what happens at the end of the year? you're paying a fortune compared to if you're going on holiday out of season. Because that land is very sought after in December holidays. So you're paying a lot more in peak season for vacation time. And that's what it is going to come to bring, the same with agricultural land. There's seasons where it's popular and there's seasons where it's not. Great question, Gav. So we're going to all bring this up in the next couple of days. Lovely to see you guys. Make money and have a good day.
Cheers. Thanks for the
Pleasure,
answer.
guys.
Good answer.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
All right. Cheers, guys.